Hi everyone and welcome to this SuperOffice event. I hope you're having a great time. The topic that you're addressing, marginal gains or constant improvement, is something top athletes and businesses have in common. As a professional tennis player, I'm facing extremely tough competitors in every tournament I play, and it's very important for me to constantly improve, and I need to improve on all aspects of the game. Mental, technical, tactical, and also physical. One thing I do before every match that I play is to analyze my opponents and search for any weaknesses that I might find. Based on this, I build my tactical plan for the match, and of course it's also important to bring a plan B in case plan A doesn't work out the way you want. I hope the way I work can inspire your company to work in a structured way with constant improvements within marketing, sales and service. I know SuperOffice is a great partner to team up with in this context. Good luck everyone!
Welcome to this SuperOffice digital event. My name is Gisle Entoft. I'm the CEO of SuperOffice, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this event. The topic of today is called marginal gains, and that means that we will explore how we can all make small, incremental, and preferably also constant improvements, which makes a significant impact on how we do versus the goals we have set. I think in today's market, some of you will at least agree with me that it is a quite tough environment out there, and when it gets tougher out in the market, we need to look at everything we do with slightly new eyes, and that's where, of course, change comes in to adjust and test out new things, again with the goal of getting a better result. I would also like to say that, even though we today are focusing on what we call marginal gains, because we believe in that concept, there are, of course, other ways of working with improving how you do your business. But for today, marginal gains is the topic, and we're quite occupied with it. And it's a clear connection also in this context between business and sports. You can also apply this to your personal development arena, and I think also there you will find that the topic of marginal gains or constant smaller improvements will make great sense for you. So why are we connecting sports and business? One of the guests that we have here today is Øyvind Sørvoll. He is a person I have known since I was actually a kid, and he is a member of Team Casper Ruud, who is ranked number 4 in the world in tennis. He is from Norway. He is also a partner of SuperOffice. We're very proud of working with Casper and his impressive journey so far, but also joining him on his journey moving forward, which is also, I would say, influenced by some very ambitious goals. Øyvind will give us some insights in how Casper works with, namely, marginal gains, and we will also draw some similarities to the area of business, of course. With Øyvind, we also have some other people to join us today. On the topic of marketing, you will meet Frida Arenby. She's the Chief Marketing Officer of our partner GetAccept. She will be joined by our CMO, Fredrik Selander, and they will talk about the topic of course, marketing. The second guest we have here today is Kevin McIntyre. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of Dealfront, which is the result of a merge between Ecobot and Leadfeeder, took place last year. He will be joined by Camilla Bommen, our Country Commercial Director for Norway, and they will talk about the topic of sales. And last but not least, we will address customer experience, customer service, and to do that session we have Flemming Rann, who's the CEO of NPS Today, also a SuperOffice partner, and he will be joined by our Director of Digital Customer Experience, Hans Christian Grønslett. So we have an inspiring and packed agenda, so I think we are about to get started. As you can understand, we are talking about many topics here today, and connecting that to marginal gains, I think, lean in, the chat is open, please feel free to also, add your thoughts or comments to the chat, but also try to think about during this digital event, what are the things you feel the most familiar with? Where do you see the lowest hanging fruits for your business in today's market? And we will, of course, after this event, also be more than happy to engage with you on a one-on-one basis to talk more about these topics. So, with that, I think all the introductory things are said. We will be here for about 2 hours, and I feel very happy to introduce you to the first speaker, who is Øyvind Sørvall. Wow, what a performance Casper delivered last year. And that automatically takes me to our first guest of today, Øyvind. Great to see you as always.
Thank you for inviting me.
As I said in the beginning, Øyvind is a member of Team Kasperud, and both of us, Øyvind, we share the idea that business and sports, especially if you talk about world-class athletes, have a lot of things in common. I think we can learn a lot from each other, and I think kicking it all off, why don't you give us an example on exactly that?
Yeah, when we work with Casper, we work with small details. We work with his forehand, serve, footwork, and you can do the same thing, talking about the same thing as customer service. You can go into a little bit of the strategy in your strategy plan, and you can also look at your sales processes. And they are similar, and altogether it means that if you want to do this well, you have to do what we call continuous development. Every day you have to develop in small details and work on this every day.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, and it sounds very simple, but I think during what follows now, we will learn more about it, and the concept of, I think what I like is that you say you have to train yourself. You will get back to it, Øyvind, but keep that in mind. How much do we train at our work? Athletes train a lot.
Yeah, we train much more than we compete.
Yeah.
And when we compete, we just look and see what do we have to do until next time.
Yeah.
And I think you can do the same when you are in any profession. You can go in and see, what did I do today? What can I do better for next time?
Yeah. But we don't train that much. We compete all the time in business,
Yes.
So, again, great if you are active and commenting on the chat, which is open. And then I think, Øyvind, the stage is simply yours. I will step aside, and let's listen to what you have to tell us about marginal gains and how you work also with Casper. So,
thank you.
Take it away.
I will be standing up a little bit and try to do my best into this presentation and talk about a very exciting story. I've been working with tennis for 40 years, and for the past 12-14 years I've been working with the team of Casper. First his father, and then of course with the team, and I will get back to that. So I've been watching this guy for a long time, and if you take a look at this video, you will see him on this side of the net. He was 11 years old. We started very early, documenting what he was doing. Not only him, but other players. And at this time, we could not see that this guy was even close to become a player, being number 4 in the world. But he had the right way of thinking. He said that I want to work hard. He learned from his dad, that was a former player, that you have to work hard every day to become as good as you want to become. So if we now start a little bit talking about tennis, it is a big sport. It's more than 100 million people playing the game all over the world. It's 200 countries all over the world where you have tennis players, and they are competing about a small number of tournaments and the ranking. And you see 26 million there in Europe, then you have about 20 million in China, 25 million in US, and so on. So it's a big market. If you look at the junior players in Europe, it's 1.6 million tournament players, and that number is also huge. And if you look back when Casper was a junior, he was number 1 junior in the world. So I think that it's a great career. And now, like you see on the screen, you will see he's number 4. And how do you get there is what I'm going to tell you. Tennis is what we call an open skill sport. I think that's compared to what you every day meet in your day-to-day job in selling software. And I think if we look at it this way, first we discover it's a forehand. We make a decision that let's hit that forehand. And then we execute. We actually hit that forehand, and then every 2 to 3 seconds we get a new opportunity in tennis, and of course we get again. But if we look at the top right hand corner, you will see that there is one thing that is more important than anything, is to reflect what happened. What happened after you hit that forehand, or if you went into a business and you were trying to make a deal, what happened if you made a deal or if you did not make the deal? And that's called feedback. It's feedback to yourself, that every time you do something on a tennis court, you have to give yourself a feedback, what is going on, what happened, and you have to make sure that you, at some point, if it doesn't work, you have to, at some point, make a change. And I will get back to that part. So this is what we call, and this is why it's so hard in tennis, because there is never the same thing happening twice in a row. So you have to practice a lot. We talk about the small things every day, the small details, the marginal gains every day that you can improve. If you do that every day, you will become pretty good in 1 year. So what can you do to do that? Well, again, I will get back to that later on. Because you have technology, we have technology, and the benefit of using technology is that you can actually work smarter and more accurate. You can't just get on a tennis court and just practice. You need to know what you are going to practice. High quality and practice with purpose is the father of Casper, the #1 coach to do. You never meet on a tennis court without knowing what you are trying to achieve. He was there today. This is what we are going to practice, and they practice like that. And it's a great communication tool, because if you find something, what you do right, especially when you do things right, you can share that information and talk that information to other one in the team or in your staff. And of course, if we have evidence, we can act on facts. I don't believe that we can at any point, be the best version of ourselves if we don't really know the facts and respond and react to what is actually happening. So we utilize technology, and we started quite early with videos, of course, like you saw when he was 11. We videotape all the matches, also the opponents, and of course we bring in IBM information that is giving us all data, the spin of the ball, the height of the ball, where he's making winners, like here in US Open, and where he's making mistakes. And this again leads me into the next, how do we then work? And it might seem a little bit, overwhelming maybe, but again, I will try to break it down to make it simple. Because look at this, we play a match and we get videos of stats. Then we say, well, we have to find out what is happening. So like I said, we have to reflect and find the source of the problem, if there is a problem. We go into the intervention to say, well, what can we do to fix this? And we never really go for the symptoms. We go behind the symptoms and find out what are the cause of the problem. We go into close training where we actually practice those details. We videotape again, and we go into testing, practice, and then back again to see what's going on in the next match. And then, of course, compare to see if things are better, if it is the same. I mean, I'm going in and out of tournaments. Sometimes I'm back home, but sometimes I go there to see, because if you're really close, you see more of the details. So this is like where the most important part in this process, and that's this here. That is where you really go in and you say, well, this is where you slow down and you work close training. It means that you take away all the other stuff, but you train on certain things, like the serve, like the footwork, like in your sales process, you can practice something, how you talk, how you present, how you act, and how you manage your time schedule. And then it comes to how do we then communicate with a great athlete? And what we found out very early with Casper and most players, they like to see when they do things right. Well, but how can you change if you just want to see when you do things right? Well, this is coming back to what I will tell you a little bit later about, how do we actually make changes? Because making changes is not really walking around saying, oh, and knowing everything you do wrong. But you also have to say that you have to build confidence, and you have to see, what am I doing quite well? And you know what? When he asks, can you show me when I'm doing things, not as well? Then we of course show him. We show him that this is what you can do, but that's when he is ready for that information, and not me as an old guy coming over him saying, okay, are you stupid? See everything you do wrong. So this is part of our strategy in trying to make him, be curious, but of course also be, to work on his confidence. Because it's confidence. When you walk into a business and you want to sell something, you have to be confident about your product. You have to be confident about what you are going to do. You have to be confident in both the process and also your products. And this is what we do. So here, and we are going to spend a little bit time on this, step by step, going from something you want to change or develop, how do we do that? And at the bottom left-hand corner, you see that to show evidence, to really see that you are aware of what is actually happening. You can do that also by videotaping yourself, presenting. You can see, how do I talk, what do I do? You can ask some friends about, and maybe get some evidence about what you can do when you meet a customer. What we do here is show evidence to say, well, this is actually so to make him more aware of what is going on out on the tennis court, because he had to know and have knowledge about this game that is quite hard to play. Then, like I said, I show highlights. That creates motivation. And if you have a staff, you just show them when they do things right. Tell them, well, when you do this, you do a better job than if you do it this way. But mostly highlights to start the motivation. And then the interaction with Casper, when we make him really understand. Because from consciousness, it doesn't automatically go into understanding. You have to spend some time. And if I ask Casper, why did you become better than the other players? You know what it says? I was more interested. Think about that. Well, the other one worked hard too, but he was more interested. So when we let them interact, then of course, show the differences when they do things good and excellent. And see how they can see the differences and let them be the one that are being the expert. Then, like I told you, reflect and accept that something maybe have to happen. Then decision have to be made by the player or you. It's not your boss going to tell you to change or develop. You have to make it. You have to be the one saying, I am going to change. I'm going to do something with my behavior, with my communication, with the way I play, the way I move. Everything you do. You try to become the best version of yourself. And you are the one making that happen. And then, you know, you will go into a change. And it's a fantastic thing to feel when you feel better on a tennis court and Casper get the message on his backhand, close your racket, boom, and suddenly he hits winners. And he is so happy, you know, when you walk off a practice court and you made that change. But it takes practice. Practice, practice, practice. If sometimes, you know, he doesn't really make that change, we go back again and show him other highlights. We maybe show him what he did last year when things were going really well. And then we try to bring him back into the same kind of feeling. Tennis players don't have, you know, they're not like on the peak performance 365 days a year. So they have to follow and try to make sure that they have probably 2 or 3 peaks out of the year. And sometimes they have to go from, you know, not making great, but try to bring them back again to get that feeling physically, mentally, tactically, and technically back, and so they can play at some point at the highest level again. So our job, my job, is then to take all the information that we gather from matches, simplify it, translate it, and customize this to the different, you know, team members. And of course, Casper. Because our team is like the first 3 steps here, where we, as team, we work to make him aware, motivated, and that he understands what we are doing. And that's our job. That's our job, and then he will do the rest himself. Don't try to force any change. Try to make them understand what's going on. Well, okay, it's a lot of information right now, so we have to slow down a little bit. But just take a picture of this. What can you do? Where do you want to start in this change, this development of skills that you need? And all of us, you know, including myself, you know, it's think, oh, you know, it's good enough what I do. But then, do we want to be excellent? Or do we want to be average? The enemy of great is good. Have you heard that before? In our business with tennis players, it can't be done. We have to be excellent every day. And we do everything we can do to do that. And the father of Casper, with the fitness coach, with the physio, with the sponsors and everything. We do everything what we can do to make him the best possible version of Casper. So we have a saying, well, it doesn't really help to do things right, the right things, but you have to do things right. Oh, well, you know, it's sometimes, you know, in life that we tend to do the right things, you know, we do everything, it's check, check, check. But if you look into each visit to someone in your, you know, if you have a customer, if you do from the start that morning to the very end, if you do everything right, you know, how can we reflect? How can we make things happen? And I really feel that for us in the team, we try to encourage each other to be the best every day. Because if we want the top 2, 3, 4 player in the world, the team have to be top 2, 3, 4 in the world. We can't expect him to do great, and we can do like a little bit of work. No, we have to do a little bit better every day. So what is really quality that we all talk about? Is quality to work hard? Yeah, maybe. But it's other things that we put into quality. And we talk a lot about quality because we tend to say like, oh, we have to work with quality. And in our country, you know, quality means you go skiing 5 hours during a week, and then that's quality. Because our culture of sports in Norway, we have a tendency to be like endurance sports. You are very good at that, you know, of course, skiing. But we think that we have to do things a lot and work hard all the time. What we look at is purpose. What is the goal right now? We talked about that earlier, and I take it up again because when I go traveling with them a few times, not every tournament of course, I see this as one of the biggest you know, success factors in what Christian is doing as the father and the coach. Then we talk about open and closed training. We of course play matches, we do this, but we also try to close the training down, meaning that we are going into details, the marginal gains. We're trying to individualize the training to make sure that it's very, very targeted towards Casper. So we're not like watching on the other court what another world-class player is doing. We try to say, well, you know, we are training doing this because this is right for Casper. Efficient training. Training where we say that, you know, how many balls do you hit per practice? Because when you practice tennis, you hit maybe 4 times as many balls per hour that you do in a match. Because if you play a match for 1 hour, you actually play tennis for 15 minutes. And all the other time you're picking up balls or getting the balls from you, you know, thinking. So it's a lot of time to think in tennis. So, but in practice we say, well, you know, we have to practice more efficient. And of course, safe environment, meaning that when we try practice, try new things, it must be in a situation where we feel that this is safe. It's no one, there's no media around, there is no one that can look at this, because sometimes, you know, you want to develop certain things, then you don't tell everyone. So it's a safe environment, and that is also a part of quality. So everyone, we think that quality beats quantity. And we can think about that when we work so hard. We work those 12-hour days. And sometimes that's needed, of course. But do we have to do it every day? Can we do it differently? Can we actually be more precise with what we do and maybe do a half day, 6 hours one day, just to say, well, you know, we have to be energetic. Because the energy in what we do is so important. That if we are 70% in what we do over a long time, we are not going to get the same results as we do 100% over a shorter period of time. It's easy to say. I know that. I'm probably not doing this my best every day, but I'm trying to. I'm aware of that. And if we can do this, you will see that both tennis players and we in sales and in other professions, we will do fantastic. So now down to the big question. The big question. So how do we actually learn them? What is learning? I mean, I can talk about that for a long time, but this is what I'm all about, in what I do. Being on a tennis court for 40 years, it's like, how do is that any fun? Well, it's quite fun because when you make people learn, then you go back home and you see the smile on the kid's face and you see Casper or, really high performance players, really feel that they can perform at the highest level. And then I'm very happy. Going back home saying, oh, it's great to be a tennis coach because I make people's life, a big change for many people, and it's an hour or two where people have fun, they learn new things and so on. But what is it? What does it mean? Is it only what I do? No, I don't think so. I think what we have to understand is that I can coach a player, but it doesn't mean that they learn. Well, because this is I meet so many parents that just say, we want a lot of coaching. We want coaching every day. Why? I said, why? Yeah, because, we want to, my kid wants to become a good player. Well, but, when do they have time to practice on their own? Because remember what I said in the beginning. The feedback you give yourself, the reflection of when you hit the tennis forehand, or you go into what you do every day in a sales process, you have to give yourself feedback. And if you don't practice on your own and find out on your own, but there's someone out there outside telling you all the time what you want to do better, no, we see that from science that that's not the best way of learning. Because I can tell you, this is what you have to do. You have to practice on your own. So if you want to make a speech, you want to tell someone about your product, do that in front of a mirror. Put up a video camera and practice how you talk, how you argument about your product or about your strategies. Practice. So what we do is give them this is what you want to do, and then you ask them to practice. And when they practice, like Casper did, he was not on the court with his father every day. The father made him go on the court with another friend, all kinds of players, different levels, and he was practicing. And he was practicing those things that the father coached him and told him to do. So that was why he was learning, because he was more interested. So he was learning things quicker because he was practicing on his own, giving himself that feedback. When the ball was too deep, he said, I had to try to do something to make it go shorter. You don't want anyone else to tell you, oh, the ball is deep. So no, you have to find out that yourself. Like you do in business. Other sports do the same. Downhill skiing, we work with them, do the same. They have to find a solution. They know what the best way to go downhill, but they have to find out themselves. So this is really one of the most interesting part of my life, being a tennis coach and coaching, not only tennis but other sports too, with coaches in hockey and and all different sports, where I meet them and I say, well, I don't know anything about, maybe a little bit about hockey, but other coaches like free ski, the athletes there, I don't know anything about it, but I can actually help the coaches think a little bit like this. All right, so where do we go from here? Talking about team, talking about all the people around you. How do we then interact with everyone? Because you are going to work alone, but you also have to make sure that you work with the other ones to see how what they can do to help you, to ask them and to help them, to make them practice and do what we do. Because this team, after US Open, last year, final US Open, unbelievable. A Norwegian player in the final US Open. This is Central Park the day after, and the whole team, and of course, mother and father, girlfriend, and Casper. He's doing most of the work. We are just supporting. But what do we do? This is really important, that if the fitness coach, next to me, we talk a lot. He asked me, what do you need from me to make it happen? It might be jump a little bit higher, so you need more explosiveness. Or it might be the physio talking about, it's getting a little bit sore in the shoulder. What do you think we can do to fix that? Talk across. But we never talk directly to Casper with everything. Because we go through the father, the coach, and ask him to say, well, how do you want to present this for Casper? Sometimes they say, well, I will do it, or make us do it, but most of the time he's coming up and, like I said, interacting with Casper to make Casper understand, and then make sure that he believes in it, and then, like I said, change certain things. But to work together in a team like this is, of course, very hard, because sometimes we all want to be recognized. Say, it's me, I was the one making it happen. No. We are not the most important person here. He is. Same thing in a business. We are important people, but, the business have a strategy. They have a plan. And you are there to deliver. And if you don't deliver, you have to practice. You see this? You see it? It's the same. It's the same. The interaction with the player, like I said, it's, of course, that's the core business. It's where you want everything to end up. That's where you want to say, well, things are really, what you want him to be able to do, or your staff members. So this is what we do, and have so much fun. Sometimes they say, well, when he's losing, is it, how do you feel? I say, well, we still do our job. We don't go up and down like this saying, well, we are happy because he's winning, and we're down here when he's losing. No, we do the job. And when he's losing, we work even harder. We work so hard sometimes that, we don't sleep, after, sometimes when he's not playing his best, to try to figure out what do we do for the next opponent, what do we do with the serve, and so on. Well, it's fun, it's a lot of work, but every day we feel that we're getting a little bit better at what we do. Yeah, what can I say? I can go on forever, but I think this is a piece of paper that you should really look at, because if someone in your team is doing a good job and you see that they're doing their very best, you know what? Tell them. Give them a chocolate, give them a cup of coffee, and they'll say that, that was really a good job. And you know what? When they go back home at night, they will be more happy. they will be more happy because you just recognize them and say that, that's a fantastic job. Let me show you this movie, because this is when Casper was 13 years old.
Your first finalist, ladies and gentlemen, Casper Ruud.
My name is Casper Ruud and I'm 13 years old. If I work hard, maybe top 100, top 50 or something.
Roland Garros finalist, Casper Ruud.
Someday I would like to try to become world number one and win Grand Slams.
I love the way he plays. He's so energetic.
The ultimate goal and motivation has always driven me.
The most successful Norwegian tennis player ever.
Before we talk about tennis, send my prayers to everyone who lost their lives on this tragic day.
The attitude is brilliant.
This is game, set, match. The first major quarter-final has turned itself into a first major semi-final.
First of all, I think I would like to congratulate Carlos. I respect you a lot as a person and a player. My closest one, she's here with me this week. My mother and father are here. My father is my coach, and they are also very close to me. So thank you.
You just reached your first Grand Slam final.
He's young, he's hungry, nothing to lose.
When I saw Rafa Roger on TV when I was young, I said that I want to be on TV someday myself, and I think that just stuck with me all my life.
You know, that was, short, hopefully sweet, marginal gains. The small details we had to work on every day. And you saw a little bit about Casper. He decided quite early that if he works hard, as a 13-year-old, he can get there, and he did. Was the plan. We worked hard. He worked hardest, but we found a way. And you can do the same. Just work on those small details and train every day. Thank you for inviting me to this conference, and hope that we will see each other again.
Thank you very much, Øyvind. Always great. I think now you need to sit down and rest. I hope that you really were able to connect. I think you did a good job in inspiring us and making the connection. I really think it's a very, very good point to think about this, because we are many people who follow sports of different kinds, whether it's skiing or tennis or soccer or whatever it is, doesn't really matter. But the fundamentals are the same. So, let's team up everybody. I think we will become better versions of ourselves if we follow some of the examples and tips and ways of working that you shared with us, Øyvind. So thanks again. And right now we are happy to announce that we have a 5-minute break where you can fill up your coffee cups or have a Coke or something else, and then we will see you in a few minutes. So thanks a lot, and thank you again, Øyvind, for joining us today.
Inviting me. Thank you again.
Welcome back, everybody. Moving on in the program of this digital event. We are now going to dive into the topic of marketing, and I'm really happy to have Frida Arenby, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of our partner GetAccept, with us here, and she will be joined by our own Chief Marketing Officer, Fredrik Selander. So take it away, guys.
Thank you for the introduction, Gisle. With the new buying behavior of customers, marketing plays a central role in revenue generation for B2B companies. Marketing can support in attracting new customers and to grow the visibility of the brand, and of course, to create some nice designs. But marketing also supports in attracting new business opportunities and to expand on existing accounts. Today's buying process includes more stakeholders and touchpoints than ever before. For this reason, marketing has a big role to play to ensure a consistent experience throughout the process. Today, I want to focus on how marketing can help sales close deals faster. To help out, we have the team of, as you know, GetAccept in the studio here, which I'm very happy about. So welcome, Frida. Can you describe GetAccept and also introduce yourself a bit more to the audience?
Yes, thank you for that introduction. So nice to be here, Fredrik. Just as you said, I'm the CMO of GetAccept, and my name is Frida Arenby. Shortly about me, I've been with GetAccept since a little bit more than 3.5 years now. I started out at the end of 2019, just before the pandemic started. And before joining GetAccept, I worked within the fintech industry. I had a similar role at a company called Bambora, doing payment solutions. And before that, I actually spent quite many years within the telco industry, working for Telia, one of the bigger telecom providers in the Nordics. But for those of you that don't know what GetAccept does, we have been around since 2015, and we more or less started out as a e-signature provider. But to be fair, the founders of GetAccept always had a different vision, and it's only the last, I would say, 2.5 years that we have really, the market has sort of caught up with that vision. So when I explain GetAccept now, what we are is that we're actually a digital sales room platform, and we empower revenue teams to increase their win rates by engaging and understanding buyers from first opportunity to closed one. So we still, of course, have the e-signature feature in our platform, but what we really do is that we support the whole sales process from that very first important meeting, when you sort of feel that you have an opportunity with the prospect, to running the full sales process and closing, signing the deal. And as you know, we integrate with CRM, so we're a complement to the CRM system, and we have integrations to most big CRM systems, and SuperOffice being one of them, of course.
Sounds like we have something good to talk about here about how to close deals faster, given your experience and GetAccept's experience. And today we want to share our best advice, hands-on tricks that you can implement today in your own business. So, but how would you tackle this question, Frida, about how can marketing support sales in closing deals faster?
That's a huge question. I would say to start with that, or for me at least, is fundamental to build a marketing team that understands that the reason for marketing to be in a company is actually to support the company's overall growth. So I think it starts there. And by starting that, you will also have a marketing team that understands growth, that understands sales, and that looks at marketing activities with the glasses that the reason for us to exist is to support the overall sales of this company. So going back then, how would I tackle the question? I think what marketing needs to do, or the purpose of marketing, is of course to reach the target audience, but overall reach the target audience and build trust with the target audience, build proof of concept with the target audience, and build an understanding of the product or the service value towards the target audience. And obviously you can do that in many different ways, and there's different models that you can apply. But I think one interesting model is the fact that you need to talk to every person's sort of rational behavior first thing, but you also need to understand that buying decisions are made out of emotional feelings and connections. And as a marketeer, you need to connect to that too, in order to really, be top of mind of a buyer.
So trust is something which is key, that we then need to make sure that people feel trusted to invest money in another vendor, I guess. So is it fair then to say that we need to, so marketing's objective is to build trust using rational and emotional touch points, or make sure that people can have a rational motive to invest in your products or services?
Yeah.
And what will be? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that is probably what comes first, or at least most people think that comes first, because when you're investing in something, there's always a buying committee, or there's a CFO behind you, and most times you have to put up clear rational reasons for why you want to invest in this. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure that rational aspects are the only one that's in play here.
Could you give some examples on if we try to distill this question into rational and emotional? So if you start with the rational, I totally agree. People understand that, okay, if I'm going to buy something, I will most likely need a business case for the CFO, for example, to why we're going to buy this new machine or invest in this new design, or it could be stock of something. But how, if we start with that question, so how can marketing support with the rational decision making part of the process? So what can we do here?
But then I think it has a lot to do with building sort of proof of concept. And if I look at GetAccept and what we do, we put a lot of effort into, like, content marketing is one thing, and I can give some examples on that later. But we also work a lot with customer testimonials, use cases, social proofs. We do different kinds of events and webinars where we focus on the product, but also where we focus on, call it situations or context where you might need our product. And we do a lot of investments into reviews, making sure that we have the best reviews and enough volume of reviews, because we know that sometime along the buying journey or decision journey, reviews will matter.
Okay, so those are a couple of things. You mentioned several areas here, and reviews. I mean, both of us operate in the software space. Some of the listeners might be from construction, manufacturing, utilities. But I think the same logic can be applied, that you want some kind of external validation that you are a trusted supplier, and that I can imagine there could be ISO certifications, reviews that could be also that you got a high rating for restaurants or hotels. The same can apply. People often look at reviews. So this is rational decision making. You go to a restaurant that has the highest score, or hotel, or you buy the barbecue that is best in test or something like that.
Yeah.
So those are the rational ones.
So for each, depending on then what industry you're based in and or you operate in, you have to look at, okay, what review sites or marketplaces or whatever it might be does my target audience turn to, and then make sure that you're present there and build your review base on that or within that online community.
Yeah. So, and I believe you also mentioned or talking about, for example, the CFO, or get the money needed for the investment. So something I've used before, at least, is actually more of, and we also have some content supporting this, is ROI calculators or similar things. Is this something you have tried as well, or have any experience with?
Both yes and no. I did an early try at GetAccept, especially for the Danish market, actually, but that didn't turn out well. Not necessarily because ROI calculators aren't good, but we didn't follow through, to be honest. But then I've actually done ROI calculators in other companies that I worked for. And as always, when you do something like that, it's a great tool for the one that uses it. But then from marketing, you have to make sure that you distribute it and that you share it and that you make people see it, need it, wanting to use it. So as any content piece, you need to make sure you distribute it, because otherwise it doesn't come to use in the sense you want to. And obviously you want somebody to fill in that ROI calculator, so you get the data in, and then you want them at the end to sign up for a demo.
Yeah. So, and just for the audience as well, just ROI calculators usually in marketing, it's can be a simple spreadsheet in Excel, or it could be a website where you fill in different information to calculate maybe the savings by buying your product or service. If you're selling a machine, that can save a lot of time. That could be enter, number of articles you're going to produce, and hourly wage cost, etc., etc. So, and these can usually be then used internally to motivate this kind of decision making towards the CFO or economic buyer. And but this is just for the rational part of the decision making.
Yeah. What we actually did early days at GetAccept, though, was that we created a RFP template. So like a request for proposal that many buyers use in many industries. So, and then obviously most times you answer an array of questions when you're answering an RFP for different kinds of suppliers. So what we actually did was that we created a template like that, that we made accessible for any buyer. So whenever a person would go in and search for RFP for blah, blah, blah product, our template showed up, which was also based on rational buying behavior. And at the end, when using that template, then we could also say, by the way, we also support with this product if you want to see how that suits your needs.
Yeah, so that's a good tip. I also want to produce those kind of RFP templates. Those can, in many cases, be of high value, or calculators that can be used by sales, but also if customers use them, it's amazing. I love it when you see a public tender or RFP coming out, and you can see, oh, they have been quite inspired by the questions we have drafted. So that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
okay, that's some tricks you can do within rational way. You can add ROI calculators. You can do, we didn't cover that much, but customer case stories.
Yeah.
Ideally with hard dollar benefits, meaning actual savings in time or money or increased sales, for example.
What we try to do is really focus on what is the customer pain here, and really nail that, and then and what the solution to solve those pains, and then more concretely what functions or features in our product helped. So it's very concrete in that sense.
And that is good. Also a good handover to the emotional aspects, because if you look at any vendor, you will see most likely customer case stories. Everyone is saving time or money, but in the end, there is a preference for some vendors, and then it's getting interesting to talk about the emotional aspects of decision making. And before we jumped into this call, we shared that there are different data points about 70 or up to 90% of B2B decision making is actually influenced by emotions. Even though I'm sure a lot of people will say it's rational decision. We needed to invest in this product or service due to these monetary aspects, but still emotions matter.
For sure. And I think that is what makes it fun to be a marketeer, because if we were only applying to the rational aspects of the brain, it wouldn't be as much creative activities and stuff that we could probably do. And at the end, I do think, even though the rational aspects has to be there first, but I do believe that emotional aspects are the ones that tips the decision over most of the times, at least.
Yeah, and I can think about it myself when sometimes you fall in love in a product.
Yeah,
and then you find rational motives to buy the product because you already fell in love with it, which is quite interesting, actually. Talking about emotional aspects here. So what can we in marketing do then to positively influence the preference for our brand or our product?
Here I think this is the core of the brand. The brand speaks to the emotional side of the brain. And if you have the possibility to build a strong you should have the possibility to build a strong brand, but I think this is what the reasons for building a strong brand is to connect to people's emotions over a longer time period. One of the questions I got from one of the people on our board when I was interviewing for this role at GetAccept was actually that: how are you planning to build an emotional brand for GetAccept? Because we think that that's super important. And if there's anything that we have been doing, and I also think that GetAccept from the start put a lot of time and effort into the brand and filling that with quirkiness, fun, playfulness, different ways of expressing the brand. And I'm a strong believer that has made us successful, because it speaks to people's they get a personal feeling, or they're touched personally by the brand. And then as a second, step, they're curious to know more about us.
So building a brand is something that takes sometimes a lot of time and a huge investment from the company. Would you be able to share some more tactical short-term ideas on what we can do here and now to help close deals to affect emotional? I'm thinking about, personally, you can create win announcements or to create some kind of FOMO or fear of missing out. For example, if you are selling to, let's say, some kind of distributor or food manufacturer or in the industry, and you have 50% of them as a customer, and then you are soon perceived as the vendor for these kind of companies. So you can create maybe a FOMO experience. Is that something you have applied, or?
Not so much FOMO experience, but what we have done is more around, let's say Black Friday as an example. There's a lot of promotions going on when Black Friday happens. And what we've done then is that we've actually used that, but we've turned it around and we've called it, I don't remember exactly, but like Green Friday. And instead we have invested in trees in certain areas around the globe to make sure that we plant new trees, better for the planet, better for everyone. And then we've had a clear message around that, which obviously has nothing to do directly with our product, but it still connects to something big that is going on around the world, which is Black Friday, and then made a twist. So hopefully it speaks to people's emotions that we did something good, or turned it into something good instead of just being about consuming, spending money, consuming, buying clothes or whatever.
So that's a cool idea, to connect the brand to I mean, doing good, and preferably or hopefully this will improve the preference for, in this case, GetAccept, for people who see this. Okay, this is a brand that cares, for example, and this is something we also in SuperOffice do a lot. We invest a lot in sustainability, and we believe that our customers value this. So this is another way of building preference over the brand. I see that the time is ticking very, very fast. Yeah. So
one thing just to add on that, I think like social media, or especially organic social media, is a channel or but also a format you can use a lot when it comes to attracting the emotional aspects. Like, don't use social media or your account on social media to just push out news about your product or similar, but actually use it to tell stories about you as a company, about you as a brand, about the people that works at your company, about customers, events that you have attended that had a certain topic or whatever it might be, because usually those kind of stories touches the emotional part of the brain more than the rational ones.
And also, just short tip is that usually people don't go to LinkedIn, for example, to buy stuff. It's all usually because people are a bit bored in the moment. You have 30 seconds to scroll with your phone, so people want to get entertained, and sometimes educated about a topic, but then you need to really make sure it's accessible in the phone, so you can a small micro learning or something.
Exactly.
It should be created for the actual format. But the time is going so fast here. I'm sure we could have talked about this topic for an hour, but we have shared a couple of learnings already. So we understand we need to influence the rational and emotional aspects of decision making to distill trust. We can use external review sites or recognition badges like ISO certifications or whatever to gain trust, but we can also use like customer stories to create this kind of trust as well. And you can do good things for the planet or society to also connect this to your brand. And something we didn't cover is also to use the communication channels that your target audience prefer. That's quite basic too. I mean, if they prefer
To
email,
your target audience is present.
exactly. So you need to tailor from what they're doing. So time is up now, and I mean, I've learned some new tricks, and thank you for that, Frida. And I also hope that you and the audience got some nice takeaways too. Takeaways that will help you achieve marginal gains in terms of revenue and generation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, I like it too. So back to the studio and Gisle. Bye.
Thank you very much, Frida and Fredrik. Very inspiring to listen to you guys on the topic of improving marketing. With that, we're reminding you all that the chat is still open, so please keep your comments coming. We're moving on in the program, and of course, what is more natural to follow up from the marketing-based topic to move into sales. And to talk about that, we have two highly seasoned sales people or sales executives, I would say. Kevin McIntyre is the Chief Revenue Officer of Dealfront, which is a result of a merge last year between Ecobot and Leadfeeder. Both actually also before the merge, good partners of SuperOffice. And Kevin will be joined by our own CCD of SuperOffice Norway, Camilla Heidenreich Bommen. So good luck, guys. Looking forward to listen to your inspiring presentation on sales.
So thank you for your introduction, Gisle, and welcome to this session on sales. I'm so happy to be here with you, Kevin.
Thank you, Camilla, and to the whole SuperOffice team and everyone tuning in. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's good to hear. As Gisle said, we have a SuperOffice Dealfront integration that helps B2B companies identify their ideal customers based on data, AI, and insights about markets, all within the GDPR and compliance standards of Europe. That's not bad.
No, it's not.
So now that I have the chance to talk to you in depth, I prepared a few questions. And my first one is, I think many listening in are hoping for some practical tips. First of
Absolutely.
all, what does marginal gains in the sales process mean to you?
So hopefully, as everyone has heard from the keynote speaker, that the marginal gains theory really touches on that by driving improvement and optimizing performance across multiple areas, the cumulative benefit can be extraordinary across whatever it's being applied to. So how does that apply to sales? And I think generally, everybody listening to this, we all want bigger deals, faster sales cycles, better win rates. But doing one giant thing is likely not going to get you there. You have to make a number of improvements and tweaks across the whole prospect engagement and sales cycle spectrum to improve these outcomes. So it all comes down to starting to break down your sales process and the management system that you have around it into the steps and key actions that your sales and customer facing professionals take. And what's important to that is when you look at these different touch points, these different prospect engagements, these different actions, you have to ensure that they're measurable and that you understand where you are. So when you do start to experiment or drive changes, you can actually see if it's making a difference. And if you look across a sales cycle, there are an infinite kind of number of touch points and activities that your team might be embracing or focusing on. And like just as a couple examples, right, you have a follow-up cadence or sequences that you're leveraging for inbound demand generation. You have engagement activity around outbound targeting. the processes and the actions you take to define your target accounts and which ones you want to engage, the effectiveness of your discovery calls, the effectiveness of your demos, and so on. Each of those can be measured, right? And if you look at an example of just discovery call effectiveness, I think that's a step in many of your sales processes where you're engaging with a prospect for the first time to understand their needs and demands, qualify fit, and if there is a fit, drive progression. There's a number of different ways you can look at the effectiveness and metrics around a discovery call. One of those could be the conversion rate of an MQL to a discovery call. Another data point could be just the ratio in the conversion from a discovery call to a next step, which might be a demo in your sales processes.
Exactly, because I think many find that, I mean, it's important to measure, but be careful what you measure. Because if you only, and I have an example, it goes, I think maybe 15 years back, I was in a company where we wanted the support to become more effective. So we wanted to measure how many closed cases the support team could close, each person on the support team could close. And the numbers were fantastic. But then the complaints started coming in because we didn't give the right amount of service. This was not in SuperOffice, of course. But so we had great statistics, but the quantity was good, the quality wasn't. And we talk to customers who tend to, it's important to measure the number of customer meetings, but you have to make sure that they lead to a started sales process or something else. So it's sort of to have the whole view of what you want to improve is important.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's a number of different metrics. And I know within our organization, I look at different capacity metrics and different conversion rates and ratios. And of course, I think generally it's a good thing to have an account executive or a sales professional be able to address a lot of discovery calls or have the capacity to handle a lot of demos. But just looking at those volumes in a vacuum could actually have a negative impact on your win rate, right? So being able to look at these different metrics across the entire spectrum is really important. And another thing when it comes to these metrics and KPIs that I find that a lot of organizations and folks in my network who I interact with seem to overlook is the importance or non-importance of benchmarks. And there's a lot of things that we can all read from different thought leaders, publications, analysts around what ideal conversion rates should be, or what the ideal capacity or benchmark of this should be. And while those might be directionally useful, you have to look at what you're doing today, right? And if your MQL to discovery call conversion is 11%, it doesn't matter if the industry benchmark is 25%, right? Because you can't just get from 11 to 25% overnight. You need to get from 11% to 12%, from 12% to 13%. So it's being in command of what these key metrics and KPIs are for your business and how you start to drive those incremental improvements.
Yeah, which means that you need to have those data in the system. And we're going to touch on that later, but that's a key thing that you. I think the military have they have a nice approach when it comes to thinking strategically what you want to achieve, tactically how should you do it, and then operatively who should do it. And it's the same here, isn't it? And it's quite fascinating that not all managers, not all sales managers have those clear state or clear areas mapped out. And it's important to have a plan, what you need to improve to be better than competitors, to increase your win rates, and how to do it.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so do you think there are, in an ideal sales process, if that even exists, at least it's not the same across the board, but do you think there are key touch points in the sales process or key areas to measure that always needs to be in place? that's common across?
That always need to be in place. Yes, but it certainly varies by the market you're in, the types of customers you're selling to, what you're selling, what your solution area is. I think generally speaking, there's three main touch points. One, it's around like qualifying fit, right? And understanding that the solution, service, product that you have has the potential to bring value, change, or impact the prospect that you're engaging. Neither of you want to waste time evaluating something that's not going to work or investing a lot of time trying to sell something to someone where it's not going to bring value or you're going to have a low opportunity of winning. So that upfront discovery and qualification is really key. Then it's putting yourself in a position where you can validate your claims, you can validate the value, the capability, the outcome. There's a lot of different ways this is handled through demos, testimonials, POCs, references, case studies, ways that you validate that your solution can actually bring value to the prospects who you're engaging. And then there's the closing process, right? And what are the terms of this professional and business relationship going to be relating to price, legal terms, financial elements to it, different obligations or commitments that you're making to each other. And across those three dimensions, you have to figure out what are the important touch points of how you're driving success in each of those areas for your particular business. And just with the business that I'm in today with Dealfront, a very fast-paced, growing SaaS organization, what we look at across our sales cycles is very different compared to previous employers where I've worked with, where we're selling very complex technical technology, like architectural solutions that could take 6+ months to evaluate and high six-figure deals compared to the more velocity business that I'm in today. And the individual and specific touch points are very, very different. But when you zoom out, it's still those three core areas that we're navigating across discovery and qualification, validation, and closing.
Where do you have a perception of where companies struggle the most today? Which part is the most challenging?
Personally, I feel it's the upfront part. And when you look at the comprehensive kind of marketing and sales funnel, and the top of the funnel, when you're looking at lead generation, MQL generation, going down to sales opportunity creation and being able to win, I think we don't spend enough time holistically across SaaS, technology, B2B sales, enough on the qualification element. I think sales professionals, obviously, they want to sell, right? Like they want to be engaging prospects and they want to drive that, to drive things forward. But I think sometimes we're not fast enough to say, I've enjoyed having this conversation with you, but I don't think this is going to be a fit. And knowing truly how to qualify out. And it's not just within the conversation, right? It's also understanding how to get and drive more scrutiny and more attention around perhaps what an MQL is to your business, and when a lead or a target account or anybody who is willing to have a conversation, whether we should invest time in even having that conversation. And I think if you can understand when to back out and where to focus your time, energy, and effort, then you're engaging in opportunities where you're in a much better position to demonstrate value and win. So I admit a lot of the tweaking and experimentation and changes we drive is towards kind of the front end of the sales process.
Yeah, that's I share the same experience. That's where most companies have the biggest improvement potential. And also I think when you mention qualification, it happens in two phases. First, it's the qualification. Is this the right type of customer to spend my time on, or type of prospect? So you have the qualification of the company, and then when you start the process, then you again need to qualify, is this the right fit for our product or solution? And the thing with, I'm a salesperson myself, so I know how hard it is to say no to something new. So it's sort of, you need to have very clear rules and perceptions about what the right customer is and what the right solution fit is, or product fit. That's at least my experience, because if it's up to each salesperson, you won't necessarily make the right decisions all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just kind of a shameless kind of plug into this dialogue between the businesses that we both represent, right? I think with having a world-class CRM like SuperOffice and being able to diagnose where across your sales process that there's areas of opportunity for improvement in either the length of time it takes at certain sales stages or the conversion rate from one stage to the next. And I think a lot of organizations will see that they can do better on that upfront discovery. And then perhaps working with a B2B data provider and go-to-market platform like Dealfront, you have the ability to further refine your ICP and what kind of data around potential prospects are indicative of your ability to be successful with them.
Yeah, and I think many customers needs to, or companies, needs to start with figuring out what's the characteristics of our best customers, because I don't think, and that's where Dealfront can help also to sort of and help find more companies like that to target. And also when you talk about to make it even more complex with the improvements is, if I, as a managing director or a CCD of SuperOffice Norway, look at where are our strengths and our improvement areas, we tend to lose in this phase of the sales process, or this is where we'll be, we'll train. But you need to go one step lower as well, because you have individuals, and some are really strong in those phases, and some are weaker. So you'll have to actually map this on individual level as well, to pick the best brains on where they are strong, and help them improve the rest of the team. So I don't think you'll ever, if you have data insight, you'll never be out of tasks to do as a manager, as a sales manager.
Definitely not. And what worked yesterday isn't always going to work today, and what works today isn't going to work tomorrow, right? I mean, the world in which we live, particularly our organizations with technology sales, it's always changing, and the rate and pace of change is only getting faster. Prospects and customers are getting smarter. They have more options. So just being content with where you are today is never going to be sufficient if you have really strong and aggressive growth and scaling ambitions. And again, like that's where this theory of marginal gains really applies, is that if you, again, like look across your whole sales process and you focus on small changes here and there across the spectrum, the outcome is a meaningful impact on your ability to win business.
Yeah, it's evolve or die for all of us, isn't it?
Yes.
Like it's always been. We touched upon the management system or structure. What's the importance, you think, of such a system or structure in order to get the sales force to live and breathe the culture?
Yeah, it's a really good thing, and I hope most of the people tuning in don't have kind of a toxic work environment where you have like sales and marketing pointing fingers at each other, and there's teams that don't take accountability, and like those can be difficult organizations to work in, and I have been in those, and it exemplifies just the overall critical importance to be rowing together and to have shared accountability across the team, because at the end of the day, regardless of the role that you're in, we all share the desired ambition of growing and scaling our organizations and having fun along the way. And so that shared mindset is just so critical to having this culture of continuous improvement and scaling. And specifically for me as CRO, it's so important to have valuable and strong partnerships in marketing and product and finance and of course other functions. Those are the primary ones that I'm interacting with day in and day out. But for us to be in a position to achieve our goals and bring value to our clients, we have to be in lockstep. And across our business, which I hope you can appreciate the challenge that we are a recently merged organization. Dealfront as a brand and as a platform is not even 2 months old at this point. And coming from two different organizations with two different products, there are different metrics, different KPIs, and different ways of evaluating what is success to each. So coming together, we've had the opportunity to kind of shape the management system and culture we want around this. And through this experience, I can only emphasize just how key it is to get a shared understanding of what are the metrics and data points you need to be in command of. So we have various meetings, cross-departmental leadership meetings. We have different Slack channels and other forums, and how we inspect the data, how we propose changes in areas that we can improve, and then ways that we review progress and analyze impact. And just one example I can share, and Camilla, I'm sure you have examples to share as well, is that since launching a new brand and website, as you can imagine, that has an impact on our inbound demand flow, right? Like that has been disrupted. So since the launch of our new platform and brand, we had daily stand-up meetings with key leaders across product, marketing, sales, and other executive leaders, looking at this data daily, understanding what's happening on like website visitor behavior, click activity, which CTAs on the website are getting tracked, how the flow is going into the sales team. And if we see something or think of something that might not be optimized, let's make that change and let's look at the data, right? So like having that kind of like energy and focus on the improvement has been a wonder. I hesitate to say the word wonderful, but it's been a really rewarding experience to have all of us coming together with a shared mindset of how do we make this better?
Yeah, and sometimes we sort of touch upon, I think maybe a fear that a structure, that a system will be something to control people, something to sort of visualize if you're not doing enough of something. But more than anything else, it's the support of doing your work tasks better and being better in your job. So I think because some people are still afraid of CRM when it comes to being controlled and they want to be eagles and fully creative. But it's as we know a help in being a better performer, and of course for management having the insights and the ability to adjust the course or to improve. We often say that something, because I think we all agree that in an ideal world we have the very strong sales culture, because a culture is, I mean, Peter Drucker used to say that culture is strategy for breakfast, because strategy comes from the management in the ivory towers, whereas culture is in the backbone and the heads and the hearts of your people on the floor meeting customers. And we often say that to achieve a culture, you have to start with something as dull as routines, because you have to decide how to do something and you have to put it somewhere. You have to, so that you can measure, so that you can see that you do it, that it's transparent. Everyone knows what to do, where to find it. And if you have routines that's followed up on, you get behavior over time because you're forced to do the same thing over and over. And behavior, or you get habits, and habits that's repeated is behavior, and behavior shared by people where we all have the same sort of values is culture. So that's why I think it's so important to have the structure and the system in place, so that it's not just a speech given and it's up to each individual to find a way to do it. You actually have to have that structure if you want to be able to improve in the future.
Yeah, it's critical, and particularly like if you are embracing the focus of this discussion on marginal gains, you're going to be making a lot of different changes, right? Because this idea of a bunch of smaller changes can add up to a meaningful impact. And in order to embrace a lot of smaller changes, you need the structure in place to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And because change can be daunting, right? It's in our organization, it seems at times like the only constant is change. And if you don't have the structure or the process to embrace that, it's just going to be wildly disruptive, and I think you'll lose people along the way. And if you can get it embraced across the organization, that we're always going to be focused on change and experimenting, and how do we do each one of these things just a little bit better. And without a framework, without structure, without the right communication, you might not get to where you want to go.
No, I completely agree. And I think the goal is to get your people enthusiastic about continuously changing, so that they're proud of it. Because I overheard a consultant say, no, we're always changing, as if that's a good thing. So, and as a manager, then you have to be able to kill your darlings as well, because what you thought of yesterday might not necessarily work optimally today, so you'll have to change it. But that's another discussion. So finally, Kevin, my last question to you, based on your experience, what's your best tip on how to improve the sales process? Is there something you see that many companies have benefited from?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to the example I started mentioning earlier, just around like the first touch point and the first human engagement with the discovery. And different organizations, different types of businesses may call it something different, whether you're working in like technology sales or you're selling manufacturing equipment or whatever that is. And like when you're trying to vet and understand needs, and now like if you think about it from where we sit, and likely Camilla, where your sales team sits, a lot of discovery calls start with there's inbound engagement, people interacting with your website, they go to an event, they've somehow made a connection with a need or something that's important to them with who you are, and perhaps they're interested. Or we've done a good job of targeting good fit accounts, and we've have them at least intrigued that what we can do can benefit them. And if you look at everything that goes into that process, there's a laundry list of different things that go into just having that first conversation. And you consider what are the different, what I call like a CTA or a call to action, like what do you have on your website, whether it's talk to sales, request a trial, schedule a demo, like, what are those different things that a potential user can do, right? And how can that be modified or optimized based on website activity? What data points are you collecting on your website, right? Are these things you're not looking at? If you looked at them, would you have better insight on how to do and execute better website design, or that experience and how they navigate from page to page, or get to a point where they might want to interact with your organization? When you're collecting information from someone on your website, what are you asking for? A name, an email, and a phone? Are you asking what industry they're from, what their location is, what they're interested in? Are you asking for 15 things, 3 things? Right? Like experimentation with that makes a difference. You have form fill abandonment and people leaving when you ask too much. But if you don't ask enough, do you have enough to actually take action on? When you've collected this information, are you enriching it with anything? If you just have a phone number, an email address, a name, do you know which company they're from, maybe what location they're from, information about their business that might help you better qualify whether they're a fit for the organization? How quickly are you following up? Does it take your team 24 hours, an hour, 5 minutes? When you start following up with people, what are the tactics you're taking? Are you leveraging some kind of automation tool to help you with the calls you're making, the emails you're sending? Are you doing this manually? What are you asking for? are your emails 3 paragraphs or are they 3 sentences? And I like, you can see that this can just keep going and going and going. But like, this is the concept of marginal gains, because little tiny tweaks here and there can add up to a really big impact. You don't have to do it all at once, right? Like, pick one and measure it.
Get started. Get started and be eager to improve, and the ball will start rolling.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your insights and great examples. It's been so nice to be chatting with you and deal from today. So and to have you as a partner in this.
Absolutely.
So with that, we say thank you, and we're moving on with the program. So stay tuned. Thank you from the sales team, Kevin and Camilla.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks also to you, Kevin and Camilla. Fantastic job. Hopefully the audience also have made good notes and have some marginal gains also to work on in this area. We are about to enter the last topic for today, and that is about customer experience. I think we can do well in marketing and sales, of course. At the end of the day, it's all about, the customer experience we all can build and deliver. To work with us and to inspire us on that topic, we have 2 professionals also in that area. From our partner nps.today, we have Flemming Rand. He is the CEO of nps.today. And then our one and only Hans Christian Grønslett, who is the director of our own digital customer experience. So take it away, guys. Let's hear your inspiring story on this important area.
So thank you very much for the introduction, Gisle, and thank you for inviting me and us to host and discuss this session of the marginal gains topic. And my name is Hans Christian Grønslett, and in the studio I have Flemming Rand. Welcome, Flemming.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. You're in Copenhagen. I'm in Oslo, and you're actually CEO of our partner and selling and integration partner, nps.today. So tell us a little bit about nps.today, Flemming.
Yeah, that is right. nps.today, we're a software as a service company and CS management experts, and we sell plug and play software for customer experience. So, for instance, we have a plug-in solution for SuperOffice, and so that we help organizations and businesses throughout the world by measuring, understanding, and acting on customer experience in various touch points, and of course also relational feedback.
That sounds good.
You could say our key thing.
Yeah, thanks. And that's you're here because you're an expert, and we had a talk before, and I really enjoyed talking to you. So I hope we can convey some of this into some key practical points and some low-hanging fruits for our audience today. And just to kick it off, we at SuperOffice, we just launched this European B2B customer service report. And there are some findings in there, and I'm going to just read this because there's a disconnect between the main objectives and the main metrics used. And 80% of all these customers, they say that they are obsessed with customer success and customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. But when they look at or tell us what they measure, it's all about KPIs like SLAs, service level agreements, and how fast they are to act, etc. So it seems that there is a disconnect between what they talk about and actually what they live with.
Yeah, exactly. And we also experience that a lot because they use internal metrics. So it's average handling time and first time resolution and all of that, which can be a good thing to measure. But for the customer, it's not ideal to have the conversation as you can say, as tight as possible or as short as possible. It might be when you do the calculations in the customer service teams that, okay, how many customer inbounds can we handle and things like that. But what the customers really want is a solution to their problem. And so one thing is measuring internal stuff, but where you can gain a lot, and that is actually to ask the customers, what do they feel and what do they appreciate? What do they want more of and less of?
Yeah, that's interesting because we're running our own NPS, Net Promoter System program, and I always get this pushback also from our people that you need to be fast and stuff. But this is actually just an invitation to talk to the customer. It's a touch point, and feedback in itself and this coming into your system means that, well, you never forget it, but you can actually elaborate to make these understand what's behind the feedback from customers. Isn't that right?
Exactly. So basically, well, you can say sending out surveys, and now you mentioned the NPS, Net Promoter Score, or Net Promoter System, which is a great tool that we utilize a lot. But you can say, but the main thing is not to get a rating or and so on, but it's actually to start a dialogue with your customers. So it's a lot. Well, you can measure it, or you get a number, but it's you can say the verbatim, the comment, what the customers then tell you. Okay, so why are they happy, or why are they unhappy, or what are they missing, and what do they like? So it's to start the dialogue with your customers. That's really the key to this.
Yeah, that's true. So this actually plays into one of the first topics that we will cover. It's about being able to listen, catch feedback in various channels and various ways, and then actually act on that feedback. So, but it's not just starting this process. It has to be, you have to mean it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because otherwise then there's no point in doing it. So it's really because you can measure a lot of things, but if it's only measured and you don't understand what you're measuring and you don't act upon it, then there's no point, because then you actually you ask your customers for something, but you don't give any thing in return, and then you shouldn't do it. It's like if I ask you, how are you feeling? You said, well, I'm not feeling too well, and I simply ignore it. Well, then I shouldn't ask you, right? So it's really a matter of being, you can say, have the attitude of, okay, it's not something on a slide that we are customer focused, but it's actually something that we do.
Yeah. So in practice, getting started with listening to this feedback, of course you need to get the feedback into your system, and it can come in as a request or an activity or whatever. But what is the first thing that you need to do with this feedback?
Do you mean once you have the feedback, or how to get started?
Well, get started. You need to get the feedback first, right?
Yeah.
How do you get it?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can say that there are two things. There's the relationship that you can measure on. That is the overall. Okay, so for instance, you can say the standard, the basics of the NPS is, yeah. So how likely is it that you would recommend a SuperOffice to someone in your network? So that's the relation. That is the sum of everything that you know. So that is you can say product, the service, the ads, the newsletters, the people that you know. So it's a combination of everything. And then you have transactional, and that can be, well, I call customer service, or I use the product, and things like that. So there are a lot of, you can say, different touch points along the customer journey. So it's a matter of, you can say, if you map out your customer journey, then you also know where does it make sense to ask for feedback. So what is the moment of truth? For instance, yeah, well, we've implemented our software. Okay, do you get any value from it? Was it easy to implement? Did we follow up on time, and so on? So there are a lot of things where you can measure, but you shouldn't start with everything at once.
No, so where's a good way to start? I mean, you might have a hunch where the problem lies.
Yeah. So you can say, well, you can always do a baseline with your customers. So you can say, to get the relational feedback. Okay, so where are we actually? Do we have some major issues? Also, because when you do the baseline with the relations, then you will get feedback that you can categorize. So it can be that if people say, yeah, we would think the onboarding process or the support and things like that, because then you know that, okay, the majority of perhaps the not so happy customers that they think that it's support not working that well. And then you can start to measure on support, because you should take the low-hanging fruits, because then you can go in and more measure, okay, so what is actually the issue with support? So start there. So have the baseline and then add upon that all the time.
Yeah, and it's like you say, you're not interested in the score, but it's the improvement that you can make on the tactics that you select. And of course, then we come into close the loop, or how to respond, and the best players in this market, they say that you need to respond within 48 hours. Isn't that true?
Maybe 24 or less than that, depends on, you can say, the situation. Of course, if it's a relational survey, then you can say that then it's you don't need to act that fast. Whereas, but if you are trying to get your product into working, you're getting some survey, it's not working, and the system is down or things like that, then you cannot wait 48 hours. And so I think you have to look into, okay, what type, where are you measuring it? And also perhaps the type of customers, so that you divide them into, you can say, different segments, so that you say, well, there are some customers, well, we will not internally tolerate that they are unhappy. So that we alert, it might also be upper management that, okay, we have this huge client and they are unhappy. So we need to do some things. So what we see from businesses doing this really well is that they have like a written down a framework and you can say a process and a tool set in terms of, okay, if these touch points we get a score between 0 and 2, well, then it's escalated immediately, so that someone has to handle it right away. And then you can say there are other places where, well, it's not that urgent.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to my experience is that you can put in firefighting tactics and make sure that you try to save customers. But on the other side, there's a big opportunity for growth when you look at those happy customers, because happy or satisfied customers, they come back for more, they buy more, and they tell their friends about that. So you really need to balance the point that you should work with those happy customers as well, because they can really take your company to a new level.
Exactly, and that's the whole point of, you can say, the promoter in the word itself, and that is that you want loyal customers. You actually want fans, if you can get that. And of course we know that there are some brands that have, like, you can say, like a huge fan scar, where people they sleep outside the store waiting for the product to be released in 2 days and things like that, or musicians or football, soccer players and things like that, but they have a huge fan scar, and we want that as well. And of course it's on a different level, but still, you can say it's our promoters. They are absolutely great customers to have, because they also want to make our product and our services better, and so they actually give us really good ideas in how we can improve. So instead of just pointing out what is not working, then they say, yeah, but if you could also do this, then I would like you even more. And of course, you can say from a marketing perspective, they are really great, because they are ambassadors and they are promoting your services and products to their network. And of course, it's like you most likely also believe more in one of your friends telling you that this restaurant is really good, rather than just their own advertising saying that they provide good food.
Yeah, that's true. And if you, no matter what kind of feedback you want, there are always some customers who respond, right? And there are a lot of customers who don't respond. And to my experience is that, if you don't respond, that's a pretty bad sign anyway, because if they don't respond, they might be indifferent to what you're selling or providing to your customers. You need to really follow up those calls as well. And if I love surveys, so whenever I get one, I try to respond if it's relevant to me. And very often I put some comments in there and with some feedback and what they can improve, and very few actually come back to me. Very often in the B2B space, in the utilities or whatever, but it is key to come back to the customer, right?
Absolutely, because otherwise then you feel like, as a customer, that you are providing something for for the ones delivering the product or service, but they are not giving anything in return. So it has to be that, okay, I provide you the feedback as a customer, but then you also have to listen to that and actually give something back. And that can be, for instance, that if you then improve your product or your services or change some things, that you let me know, that you write it in your newsletter. So why did we implement this feature in our product? Well, that's based on customer feedback, because then the next time, then I will be inclined to actually say, okay, I really want to provide the feedback because it pays off. I actually get a better product if I do so.
So now you're touching on, two levels here, because the first level is me as an agent. I really want to understand the feedback. I want to have a dialogue. I want to, some are bad feedback. I have to deal with it, and some things I cannot solve on the front line. You can just show empathy and understand, and then of course all this type of nitty-gritty feedback that comes into all our customers, right? And then if you make a systematic approach to this and categorize it and then ship it over to the people who can actually solve these problems on a more strategic level, then you can improve your services, even if it isn't like opening hours, or it's better deliveries, or it's faster deliveries, or self-service options for customers. And then what you're pointing at, as I understand, you need to inform all your customers that we're actually acting on it, right?
Yeah, because that's it's like going to an election and feeling that, okay, that it pays off to actually give your vote for something, and so that you can see that it makes a difference. Because if you cannot see that, why should you then spend the time answering the survey? So you can say in terms of getting the feedback, that there are some really important points, and that is, of course, timing. So when you send the survey, it should be relevant. And if you call customer service, you shouldn't wait 14 days to send the survey. It should be right away, or when at least your issue have been solved, because then it makes sense and then you would like to answer it. Then it has to be really short, so you know that it's not like this huge survey with the 72 questions and things and boxes you have to tick, because then you will never get to the end. So make it short, so that people, they can actually answer it in we're talking seconds.
Yeah, so that's a key takeaway here, that you need, when you ask for feedback, you need to have it short, and it could be just that rating question and a comment. We just added drivers so that people can point us to a direction, if it's the product or if it's the delivery or whatever it is, and then you need to act on it fast. Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, and then we talked about a little bit about the communication part of that. What's your experience, Flemming, on how to communicate? There's a lot of channels here. How do you, when you do something, what do you recommend companies?
Well, you can say when you start with your customer experience feedback program, because it should not be a project, because then it's like it has an end date, but should be a program across the entire business. But even though that you start in one area, well, then inform your customers on your website, for instance, that we are doing this, and we are sending out surveys, and we're doing it in these touch points, or with these relations. So and what you're using the feedback for, so that people can say that, okay, you have a strategy and you have a plan for it. So that's you would say an easy start. Then it's you can say if it's more B2B, where you have a relation with your customers, you can actually, when you onboard a new customer, then you can actually tell them that during the onboarding phase and across the customer journey, that we will send surveys, because we would like to improve our service towards you, so that they know that it's coming and that it's important. Of course, if it's more a B2C situation where you don't have that much direct contact, you can still include it, as mentioned early on, in, for instance, newsletters, that we are doing this and we're making these changes based on customer feedback and so on. And so, but you can say that's the external communication, but internally it's also important that you inform employees of why we're doing this, how we're using the feedback, and also showing the results from the customer feedback so that everyone can see it. So we can see in these businesses that really are thriving and getting, you can say, improving customer feedback and revenue also, that they have, you can say, screens hanging around where you can see the customer feedback coming in, because then it's relevant to everyone and not just for the CX team sitting in another building.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We have, in SuperOffice, we have this intranet we call the Parliament, and there all the comments are presented. And we have a goal to solve problems or feedback in real time if it's on tickets or whatever. And then actually anybody can go into that customer and they can see the status of that request and what we actually did with it. So it's quite powerful when you see that feedback is taken care of. And it could be, you're saving a customer, or you're inviting to a webinar, or you're actually pointing them to our self-service portal where they can solve their own problems. Because according to this report again that I mentioned, the B2B service report, we can see that customers now are, number one, they're looking for more tools to get this in one system, so you can handle a request, ship it to a colleague that can do a better job, or send it to somebody who can solve it. You want to get that solved fast as possible, really, for the customer benefit, but also that customers want to have self-service. They don't want to call everybody. They want to solve the problem on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning or whatever. So that's also a thing that you can use this feedback to find out what you want to map onto your digitalization journey.
Exactly. Yeah. So as you can say, improving your business based on these this type of customer feedback. So that is really important. But also that your customers, they vary, so that it's not because someone are pointing out to self-service that you suddenly can just skip, you can say, the personal interactions, because, well, at some point then there might be a too huge a distance. So it depends on, you can say, also your customer segments, that they might vary a lot. But also coming back to, you can say, the communication part internally, as you mentioned, that also, you can say, salespeople or customer service representatives and so on, that they can see the customer feedback. So they should see that in the tools where they work on a daily basis. It should not be that they have to log into another tool or read some report. It should be where, you can say, the employees usually work, that they should be presented with the customer feedback, like in CRM tools. And
I think that's a good point, because it's very easy to jump to conclusions if you get a ticket on support, for instance, and you really want to solve this problem. You have an idea that, okay, this is easy. But if you spend like 30 seconds or a minute of looking at the history, have they had this problem before? What is the context? Then you really are exhaling your own competence and trust when you talk to the customer, or even email back your solution, or even ask a couple of questions. So that's also part of bringing you closer to the customer, solving their problems.
Yeah, and having, you can say, the history. So if it's your internet provider, you have some issues and you're calling them, and they can see that you've had issues with your router before, and they have asked you to reboot it, and you have done that many times, and you're actually an engineer yourself. Well, then they should start by saying, have you tried this, or is it turned on? Then you can take it to the next level, right?
Yeah. And you can also, bring on your team, tear down the silos, because this actually might end up on missing training opportunity, right? So there are other products or services you can cross-sell or upsell in order to solve that customer problem, because they didn't know how it was worked. Maybe it's a new employee coming on 2 years after you onboarded the system or you sold the product in the first place. So it's a continuing measurement of what are the tactics and the solutions and the information you need to solve the customer problem in the end, to turn into more promoters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so time flies here. We could sit for many hours. I want to just end up on one thing that is quite key, and we see a lot in our customers, that you have a need to aggregate data. You need reports, or you need to present real life or real time dashboards so that you can make a qualified evaluation of the situation. Because we know that when you get feedback, if you get 1,000 pieces of feedback, you have all kind of areas, and you have all kind of directions, and you have outliers, and you cannot solve everything with coming with a new version or creating a new service.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about your opinions on the need, to get overviews in dashboards and what that can benefit the customers.
Yeah, you can say, especially when you need to make, you can say, strategic changes, then you have to have, you can say, a lot of feedback and a lot of numbers that you can then look into. So you have the ability to make informed decisions. So it's not just gut feelings, but you can actually you have some data to back up your solutions. And the beauty of that is that then afterwards, if you then make a change and you keep on, you can say, getting feedback, then you can see, okay, so are we improving or not? Or is there no change? So that's why you can say that you have to do it constantly and not just ask once per year, because then it's only in week 42 that you get customer feedback. It should be continuous throughout the year so that you can see, okay, what changes actually did matter to the customers.
Yeah, I think I want to take one point out of that sentence and make it stronger, because you said that you actually want to see that what you do has an impact.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And companies who really thrive in using feedback from all sorts in growing their business and creating more customer loyalty, they're actually looking at it, analyzing it, and putting things into action, right? You want to do it on a strategic level, so the CEO needs to have ownership to this program as well. Not only the front line, but it needs to be mapped all around, and that's where you get the ownership, so you can change companies, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it has. We can see in a lot of companies, actually they have it. You can say on the board level, that when they have their board meetings, that they start with actually looking into the NPS, because that's a metric that tells about the future. So you can say our revenue in last quarter, well, that was yesterday, or that was some time ago. Whereas do we have happy customers? Then we know that we also can sell them something in the coming quarter. So it's really it's a key metric for many, you can say, board of directors and CEOs and so on.
Yeah, and the tools are there. I just want to point our customers or potential customers into the direction as well, exploring the dashboard features as well, because it's really easy to get data out. And in a CRM system and an NPS system, you have tons of data. It's all there. So now we've enabled it so that you can actually get the data and play with it and start making wiser decisions, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can map, you can say, customer satisfaction or loyalty towards products, or you can say customer revenue, and all sorts of demographic insights and metrics. So you can map them against each other and then see, okay, so where do we actually have an issue? Where should we focus on?
Yeah. Great. So we need to wrap it up, Flemming. So what are the key takeaways here? You want to give it a try?
Yeah. Let me do that. Yeah. Well, I think that, well, first of all, yeah, you need to start by measuring, because, well, you need some data. So start by measuring. Take a baseline. Find a touch point from that, where you can also then ask. So get the feedback, listen to your customers, then understand it. So actually, categorize the feedback on a higher level and map it into where on the customer journey it is. Because then, thirdly, then you can act upon it. Then you know exactly what you should do. So I would say those are the three things. That is, measure, understand, and act on customer feedback.
Yeah. I'll add a couple of things. If you get feedback, you need to, you said it, act on it, but, call up the customer, not only the irritated ones, but all of them, because that will give you more credibility and they'll give you more feedback in the times to come. You said something about act on it. Of course, we need to promote what we've done. how that feedback we get changes our products and services and inform back both internally and externally. Great. Anything else? One final recommendation for companies now?
Well, I would say if you haven't started measuring or listening to your customers, well, then it's not too late to begin. So
No,
just
you can actually,
get started.
yeah, you can actually begin right away, and
The tools are there, so it's just do it.
Yeah, great. All right, I guess this wraps up the session. Thank you, Flemming. And we didn't mention marginal gain much, but all of this, if you start small, and the point with the marginal gains that you do a little bit every day, and that has a huge impact when time flies.
Exactly.
All right. So they can reach you, I guess, on LinkedIn and search for Flemming.
Yeah.
Right. Flemming Rand and NPS Today. I also want to mention, if you want to read more about the customer service report that we have provided, it's on the website, superoffice.com. And then I'll say thank you to all the listeners and have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flemming and Hans Christian. That was really a topic on fire, so thanks a lot. We are approaching the end, so we have arrived at the summary, and I will go straight at it to sort of summarize and take it a little bit high level on where we go back to, you know, the relationship between sports and CRM and business in general. And there are actually, you know, a few things to bring with us here. Many things, I'm sure. But in my summary, I've decided to cover a few of them. Actually, it's 4. Continuous improvement, this is what Øyvind talked a lot about, and it's the concept of you know, business gains that we work with all the time. We all talk about it, we all want to achieve them and so on. But it is also very important to keep in mind that we need to train and we need to, you know, focus on the details. Øyvind called it closed training. And also to remind us all again the importance of practicing on your own. Because I think the training sessions we do, they can vary in length and amount versus our you know, time spent in competition, so to speak, or in the market. Practicing is also an important element in business. The next topic, which I think has a lot in common, is of course using technology or data analysis. We heard Øyvind talking about acting on facts, showing, demonstrating, that is a very fundamental topic for Team Ruud and Øyvind. But I mean, if you move over to the area of business, marketing, sales, customer experience, customer service, or CRM, I think, which is maybe the covering everything we have talked about today, we use technology and software to really gather a lot of data. And the trick is, and very much related to how we use that data to analyze, find areas of improvement across marketing, sales, customer experience, customer service, and to work with our data points, and also, you know, showing the data we have, making them interpretable and understandable for people is definitely an important part to keep in mind. Not only using them in the daily operation. So moving on, personalization. We heard how Kasper and his team and Øyvind are working with adapting to the opponent and the opponent's weaknesses. It's being prepared. So when we are in the line of fire in marketing, we're building messaging, we are in sales, preparing for presentations of our products, services, and everything we do. or also in the customer service area. It's very important to try to also work from an angle of who are we up against, and before we meet any customer or potential customer, it's all about personalization and giving everybody this special feeling of being treated especially. So I think that's also an area where we are, have a lot to learn from how they do that in sports and in tennis in specific, and to transfer it to the area of CRM. As it says here on the slide also, customizing messages. Today we work a lot with something called account-based marketing, and it's in the word account-based, it's specific, and it's trying to build stories which triggers the people we meet to find us relevant and interesting. So keep that in mind, everybody. Last but not least, teamwork. There is no I in team is an expression, and I think we all work in companies where we are together. Øyvind and team Kasper Ruud has a lot of different disciplines that he needs to practice. He has people on different disciplines, and we also have different roles to play, and at the end of the day to work together to try to improve the business we do and to deliver a greater customer experience at the end of the day. So I think being aware of that also in this name of marginal gains and training and so on, working together and being aware of the roles we play to together generate a better result is something we all need to keep in mind. With that, it's time to say thank you. I'm really thankful for you spending this time with us during our digital event. I hope you found it inspiring, and I also want to thank, of course, our partners from GetAccept and Dealfront and nps.today for joining us. And we are looking forward to, and we're very ready to engage with you all on a one-to-one basis to try to discuss, define, and arrive at joint marginal gains in the time ahead. So thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.